Hi, Elizabeth here from Weglot, and today I'm going to take you through 9 design tips for your multilingual website. Website design is important, and there's some extra considerations to take into account for your multilingual website. So let's take a look at those and get started. Okay, so tip number 1, use global templates. And when we talk about global templates, what we mean here is brand consistency. You don't want to end up on a website in Japanese and then end up on the English version and see 2 completely different versions. It's easier to have one complete version, so no matter what language version you land on, it's the exact same site. And secondly, it helps when you come to add and update languages in the future. You won't have to make any additional changes if you now want to add French to your site. So it's always good to have one global template. Let's take a look at that in real life. When you look at the Airbnb homepage from a country like Australia and then switch from English to Japanese, the design and branding are consistent. The only thing that changes is the language, and this creates a seamless user experience. So, tip number 2, make your language switcher easy to find. Now this one might seem a little bit obvious, but for your website visitors landing on your site for the first time, they want to know that you have language options. So if you put it in a prominent place, your website visitors can immediately switch to their preferred language. And be consistent about the positioning. Make sure it's at the same place on every page. That way the user can easily switch when they want to. And another important point is to refer to language options in their native language. What do we mean by this? Well, for example, instead of saying French, say Français. This way your visitors will feel acknowledged and welcomed. Okay, so tip number 3, let visitors choose their preferred language. So, what we mean by that is, take me for example. I'm in France, I'm visiting a website, and it shows me the French website. I speak English, it's my native language. I would love to be able to switch to English. So it's a little bit frustrating to not get that choice. Just because I speak French doesn't mean that that's going to be my preferred language. So it's important to have this option. For example, Uber does a great job of respecting users' preferences, and it allows them to choose their preferred language regardless of their region. Okay, tip number 4, account for text expansion. This is an important one because, say, 1 or 2 characters in Chinese could take up a whole line in English. And then you have languages like Arabic, which require a little bit more vertical space. So allowing that sort of give and take when it comes to text expansion is super important for your multilingual website. It's important to have adaptive user interface elements. If that's not enough, then you can even change the font size of your translated language. Or how about a less literal translation? These kinds of things give you a little bit more leeway in terms of space. Tip number 5, consider font compatibility. So this is an important one because not all fonts support your characters or right to left languages. They primarily support Latin fonts, but it's always best to check that your font is supported so you don't end up having to change multiple fonts across your multilingual website. A really good place to check this out is at font.googles.com, where you can see all the fonts and test it out before you go live on your website. Okay, tip number 6, design for right to left languages. This is because they look different to left to right languages. For example, here's what Facebook left to right design looks like, and here's what Facebook's right to left design looks like in Arabic. Mirroring your design is something you'll need to consider if you're planning to design for right to left and left to right languages. Luckily, Weglot is a translation solution that takes care and supports this for you, so you'll have no issues if you're considering translating your website into a right to left language. Okay, tip number 7, use images and icons that are culturally appropriate. Now, we're big advocates of localization here at Weglot, and translating your images is one of those things that we find really important if you're targeting different markets. That's because different images are perceived in different ways in different cultures, so it's an important one to be aware of. For instance, the French version of Claren's homepage features a Caucasian woman, whereas if we check out the Korean homepage, there's an image of a Korean woman. So there's a real possibility of offending cultures with a seemingly innocent picture. You should also consider details like icons, because they might signify different things for people from different locations. For instance, an icon of a globe for Australian visitors would look very different for visitors from Africa. So choosing a globe icon that can be easily recognized for anybody no matter where you live is probably more recommended. Tip number 8, use culturally appropriate colors. This kind of follows on from what we just talked about images, that different colors can be represented very differently in different cultures. For instance, red symbolizes good luck, prosperity, celebration, and a long life in Asian cultures. But on the contrary, it's associated with death and aggression in some African cultures. So before choosing a color for your design, first research what it symbolizes for your target audience. Or try using a more neutral color. Blue is generally recognized as a pretty safe color and is quite ideal for a multilingual website design. Number 9, and our final tip, is to change dates and other formats. This is important because not all countries follow the same format. For example, in England, we do the date, the month, and the year, whereas in the US, it's the complete opposite. It's the month, the date, and the year. Therefore, it's important to change these depending on your target audience. You may also need to change units of measure depending on your target audience. For example, 90% of the world uses the metric system, but there's still 10% that use imperial. So bear this in mind when you're doing units of measurement on your website. Translating these measurements will improve the user's overall experience. So guys, those were our 9 tips for designing a multilingual website. There might be a little bit of extra work, but it would definitely pay off. Just make sure you plan in advance and you'll have the most perfect multilingual website. Of course, if you have any questions, don't forget to comment below, and as always, contact us at support@weglot.com if you need any help. See you next time. Bye!